So, who was here last night? Did we have fun or not? Yes. Great fun. So we had our Pastapalooza, just an opportunity to have fun together and contribute together. I want to acknowledge a few folks, though, because it really was quite an amazing event. The lovely Jerry, who no matter what is always lovely. She can move tables, she can move chairs, she can do it all and still look lovely. It's quite a remarkable feat. And then there's Shane. And Bearable and Jim and Chris and Nancy and all those wonderful folks that, if I miss anybody, I apologize, that put that thing together and just had such a great time. Fred made a ton of food just as an opportunity to come together in community. And then the talent show was quite... Let me think. I'm thinking for a word. Let's just go with interesting. That covers everything. Learn things that I'm not even sure I wanted to know, but now I know. So it's all good. No, it was really great fun. And so just a fun night. We will be having other opportunities to come together and do wonderful things. We realized that not only do we have the opportunity to create some additional cash flow, but we just need to have more fun together. And so... So we are looking at this idea, finishing up a series around deepening in prayer and learning to live our lives in such a way that we're not buffeted by circumstances that surround us. I find sometimes I say it feels like we're swimming in a sea of negativity, that we're bombarded with information, we're bombarded with negativity, we're bombarded with all kinds of things. And it does seem to be sort of a cultural norm that people like to talk about what's wrong, what's missing, who's to blame, who's at fault. If you listen to a lot of conversation out there, occasionally in here, but mostly out there, that's the general theme. And so we're seeking to come from a different place of understanding, to raise our awareness and our consciousness into a level of being that simply perceives what's going on without being impacted by what's going on. In other words, we don't allow the world to dictate our point of view. We don't allow the world to determine our attitude. We don't allow the world to say how we will feel and when we will feel it. So, and I know you do that all the time. Right? So we were given this idea in Thessalonians about pray without ceasing. And I think about that and I think, well, I've got to drive sometimes. Not sure I want to be closing my eyes and going into that deep, still place while I'm trying to navigate on I-15. But I think that is a statement of, can we move into a consciousness where we are profoundly aware of the divine and the good that is all around us? Can we move into that consciousness? And so for most of us, it does take some practice. Dr. Holmes said, you see, we're not denying that there's a physical universe. We're not saying that this physical universe doesn't exist. He says, instead of denying the physical universe, we affirm that it is controlled and governed by a principle of harmony, of unity, and of peace. He says it is necessary that life clothe itself in form. Otherwise, it would remain unexpressed. So life, by its very nature, is seeking to make itself known, and it expresses itself into being by becoming form, by becoming substance, by becoming the vessels and vehicles through which life is carried. We often say that when we look at the physical universe in which we live, we would say that this is the body of God. There's a divine intelligence that is at work, and it is expressing through all of its creation, which then implies that you and I are part of that creation. Now, I know from time to time we get stuck in an illusion that feels as if we are separate from creation, particularly when we're not manifesting what we want. You see, sometimes when we go into that, we say, I want more money, I want more love, I want more joy, I want more whatever, and it feels as if that thing that we desire is outside of ourselves. And then we have a whole world view and a whole industry that says, you're right, it is outside of you. But lucky for you, we have a product that will solve that very issue. We have a pill, we have a form, we have a car, we have all these wonderful things so that you can feel good and experience joy and happiness. And so we go shopping. And it is fun. You know, there's nothing like that new car smell. But as I always say, you realize that the new car smell wears off well before the payments stop. At some point, it just starts to smell like an old car. Yeah, right? And so it's this wonderful opportunity for us to begin to move into deepening, to realize that creation is the result of the self-knowingness of creative spirit. Holmes says that consciousness clothes itself in form in the individual as well as in life. So that is to say to us, what we are doing in our work is to evolve our consciousness into a state that life wants to clothe itself differently. You see, here's the good news / bad news you choose. Life is clothing itself through you right now exactly according to the design that it has been given. Yay! Oops. I don't know where that is for you, but that's what I always have to remind myself is like life is responding to me perfectly. It is providing for me everything that I have invited into my life. Everything. I want you to hear that everything part, right? Because we would like to segment that, wouldn't we? We'd like to say, well, obviously I created the good in my life. Obviously, my high consciousness created that. But these challenges, no. Surely. And that's, as I always say, that's the problem with not having a devil. This philosophy sounds so great. Oh, it's all about unity. It's all about oneness. It's all about wholeness. Oh, it's great. But then forgot where I was. This is Sunday morning, not Saturday night. When stuff starts to happen. So I told you this was going to be a problem. When stuff starts to happen, then we're thrown off by it. We're like, So I realize that we are simply clothing ourselves in form. So when we're invited into a deeper state of being, which is all we're ever doing, we're simply moving into the awareness of life, of God, as the divine, as my very life and being. And so I'm no longer trying to overcome something. I'm not even really trying to attract something. This is science of mind heresy, but I'm going to go there. You see, but we get into a result of our old ways of thinking. I was listening, I think I mentioned last week that I've started the 60-day coaching program. And the great thing about this 60-day coaching program is you have to do it every single day. Now, sounds good, doesn't it? But we all sign up for things and we say, I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to exercise every day this week. And around Thursday, something happens, right? Or we say, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, and it's over the progression. So it's this wonderful opportunity. Now, they're very clear in this program that as you move through this, stuff is going to come up. And this is the good news. Our stuff is going to come up. But in this coaching program, it's wonderful, said, the statement that the gentleman made said, most of us are really good at developing bad habits and really bad at developing good habits. It's like, I feel like you guys say why are you speaking to me? You could be talking to all these other people, but no, you're going to talk to me right now, right? But if you think about it, some of the things that we do that create long-term habits, we're really good at doing the negative part of it, but not always so great about doing the positive parts of it. So we tend to think of prayer as an afterthought. Let me give it my best shot. If that doesn't work, well, maybe then I'll take it to prayer. Right? Whereas there is some wisdom in the thought that maybe I would start with prayer and then see how the day unfolds. Right? For those of us who are developing a deep spiritual practice, we realize that it becomes the most important part of the day is the spiritual practice. It's not some luxury. Now, I know in a highly productive world where all results are based on your accomplishment and your output, that just seems like you're just sitting around, wasting valuable time when you could be doing something, right? Isn't that what the mind says? Well, you're just sitting here. But I have discovered that in truth, when I'm in that state of awareness and I take the time and give myself the gift of stillness and quiet and contemplation, then I move through my day and it's with grace and ease and with joy. Things unfold. You know, Dalai Lama is famous for having said, he meditates at least an hour every day, an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, and he said, I have so much to do today, I will meditate for 2 hours. Right? He understands that the consciousness from which we create is what creates the rest of the flow. And I don't know, this is why wise people will tell us don't make major decisions about your life when you're highly emotional. Right? We've all done it, right? Had some brilliant flash of inspiration that came out of angst or anger or whatever. Took years to clean it up, but right? It's good to slow down, to be still. So, excuse me, in this awareness, we're realizing that as we're working, the whole science of mind is developed around a process that says if we can develop our consciousness, our mind, then we can put ourselves into a state of flow that is in harmony with the natural flow of the universe, and then we just become the vessel and the vehicle through which greater good can emerge. As I always like to say, it is not the universe playing favorites with someone and withholding from others. The universe is wonderful in the sense that it is very just. I struggled when I remember when I first heard about, in the Bible, it talks about those that have, it shall be given more to, and those that have not, it shall be taken away from. Billie Holiday made that famous in one of her beautiful songs. Them that got shall get, and them that not shall lose. But you see, that is not a God that is picking on people. It is actually a very high statement of consciousness that says, if you have the consciousness of the thing shall be yours. If you do not have the consciousness of the thing shall be taken away. Not something outside of yourself. It's just that we don't have the vessel, we don't have the container to hold our greater good. And so sometimes when we're moving through life, and if we get ahead of ourselves in terms of consciousness, then we have an adjustment phase that goes on to get us back to what is comfortable. You see this, talked about this before, but you see this with people that come into great money or have a major change in their body, and they may lose a lot of weight. But if the inward thing does not change to live there, then the natural thing is to go back to that identity, that way of being before. So prayer helps us to be in a state of consciousness. In Science of Mind, we teach an affirmative form of prayer. And again, we've talked about this at length, but it's not asking God, or if you want to be metaphysical and cool, you could say not asking the universe to give us our good, but recognizing our good exists. Our good already exists, awaiting our recognition of it. So Holmes says to us, when we begin the process of manifestation, we feel a lack of the consciousness that we are seeking. He says we have to develop a new mental equivalent. We have to develop a new sense of being. But he says, so when we start, we feel a lack of the consciousness. It's only later, as we realize the lack was only an illusion, that the consciousness we sought was within us and part of us all the time. You see, the illusion is the illusion of separation. The illusion that is somehow apart from who we are. And it is through our prayer life that we remember who we are, that we are one with the divine. Now, we teach, Lynn mentioned, we have basic principles coming up again, and we teach some basic fundamental principles and practices. We teach a technique called affirmative prayer. And I always like